Let's try this again. Let's try this again. I am hiding up. I just got to Hershey, so I'm hiding up in this spare bedroom here. Okay, so as you may have guessed, the same thing happened to me when Jeff Sessions was fired. I was, given just a tiny little bit of a heads up to go ahead and do a scope, and it happens while I'm scoping, and then that's the same thing that happened last time, and I don't. I'm doing it when I'm driving, if you notice, so I don't answer questions. So you might think it's a little weird that that same thing happened again with the Mueller report, like. I just decided today, out of nowhere, just let's just have this conversation minutes before it's confirmed that the report has been walked over to William Barr. Certainly, Periscope was watching something with the hashtags because they tanked my Periscope. Absolutely tanked it, killed it. It was unwatchable. So I figured I better get on and do this again. So that's twice that I put myself into this position where I'm only authorized to just do something like a couple minutes beforehand. So I'm not one of these guys trying to get a scoop on anything. Matter of fact, I won't even say particularly things like Jeff Sessions is about to be fired today. I'll just have a scope saying, "Hey, Jeff Sessions, when do you think he's going to be leaving?" Same thing today with the Mueller report. So no real secret inside DC that it was going to, Friday Bob is what we call him. We were just curious to see if there would be a flurry of bills coming back from a grand jury. And at this point, there very well may be grand jury activity that's still in play. But for the investigation itself, under the mandate of the executive order issued by the Department of Justice under Rod Rosenstein, the investigation is effectively complete. And as I said, you're going to see the media screw this up royally. There is not going to be a release of the Mueller report. So please spare yourself the aggravation. What's going to happen now is William Barr has been reading this report since late this afternoon. He is in receipt of the entire report, which will delineate who was charged, why they were charged, the methodologies that were employed to get to the investigative periods prior to warrants, prior to process crime, delineate all of this stuff for you. But that is not for you. That is for Barr. That is for William Barr. William Barr is committed to what it sounds like a very expedited timeline where he will write his own executive summary of what was given to him by Robert Mueller. You should not hear anything from Robert Mueller. You should hear the same sounds you heard from the entire investigation of the past 2 years. The issues that I have, yeah. I mean, that's a great question, Doug. I'm going to go back and say what was in my other scope, and I want everybody to understand this real quickly. If anything is leaked, we know it's not coming from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, the report is in the hands of a very select few on the fifth floor at Main Justice. It is spearheaded by a very, very vigilant and let's just say serious man in William Barr right now. There will be no leaks from the Department of Justice. Should anything be leaked and traced back to the content of the report, Robert Mueller could subsequently be charged by the Department of Justice. I want to be very clear about this, and I want this to be known because it will not be widely reported. But I am told from sources in the Department of Justice who have dealt with matters before with special prosecutors and special counsel. The Department of Justice is the one who follows their own regulations on this. He was, in fact, essentially deputized as a inferior officer of the Department of Justice with equal authority to a U.S. attorney. He is a subordinate in the structure of the Department of Justice. The superstructure, which is spearheaded by the President of the United States of America, is the chief officer. So William Barr knows that he cannot have the contents of this report widely distributed inside the Department of Justice. So it will be contained, but what I'm told is less than 6 people will see the full report, and perhaps only half of that. There has to be counsel to come in with questions, and there will be other people brought in to see segments of the report. Typically, what I'm talking about here now is stuff that will be turned over to the Inspector General. There will be stuff in there that'll be problematic for the Orrs and the Priestaps and the Bakers and the McCabe's. And there's going to be incidental things that were learned during the course of the investigation that will need to be turned over in a separate to the Office of Personal Responsibility. That's a separate discussion. The point is, William Barr will be probably one of only 1 to 3 people who will see the entire report bared naked, laid bare before him, and others will see parceled out portions of it in the various upper floors at Main Justice. What I want you to understand as far as the media is concerned, should MSNBC have a scoop about the reason why, say, Trump Jr. or Kushner or somebody else, Steve Bannon, was not charged with a process crime like lying before Congress and saying something different to the special prosecutor's office, special counsel's office rather, and then something different before. Anybody who is not charged yet, it is 90% likely that they will not be charged. However, do not discount the fact that there could be existing grand jury bill issues that are being essentially adjudicated. The investigation itself is over because William Barr, we always knew, was going to say it's over. You've had your time. Tell me what else you need to do. Okay, that's done. Checkbox, 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 checkbox over the last 3 weeks. Now it's done. Now William Barr will say, okay, Mueller, I need, let's just move this process down the line. So there we are. You have squeezed your last orange as far as trying to get people to lie and flip and do all this other kind of stuff. But it's not necessarily, obviously, it's not over for Michael Cohen. It's not over for Roger Stone. A lot is not over even yet for General Flynn, per se, although that should be coming up, I think, very shortly. All these balls are kind of are still in the air. But let's strictly talk real quick, because this is my daughter's follow-up birthday party here that I got to get to. Very important. I'm going to make this point clear, very clear to you. Cut it out, paste it out, record it, put it that way for later. If any details are leaked on MSNBC, CNN that get into an unindicted person, any details associated, smoke, no fire type of deal that would be contained in this report, if it is leaked, there will be an immediate investigation spearheaded by William Barr himself, the Attorney General. And if anyone on Mueller's team, associated with Mueller's team, prior or current, or Mueller himself, will be subject to criminal prosecution for leaking the material. This is the highest order. There's only one more document in the world right now that is harder to see than this one, and that is the final screenplay episode of the Game of Thrones. They're right about the same level. That's how they're going to treat, and I say that just to piss Posobiec off because he gets mad about Game of Thrones, but this level is not going to be seen by anybody. They're not going to be sharing this with the Department of Justice PR teams so they can go out and address the talking points. They're going to be given the talking points of what they're allowed to say. The constraints are going to be built in concrete and rebar. There will be no mistakes. And if mistakes are made, if leaks are made, you will see why William Barr agreed to come back as Attorney General. It will be an emphatic destruction of anyone who leaks, and he will seek court approval for warrants and wiretaps on the journalist who released this information. I cannot be too clear about this for you. I'm being very clear because I was told by very, very serious people who worked with him at the Department of Justice before. There is a wide belief that there have already been barium tests, as I refer to them. Other people say traps, canary in the mine traps, these types of deals. We've already perhaps have people lined up to leak key elements of this Mueller report, and they will be roundly rejected by mainstream media sources who are going to protect themselves from the BuzzFeed nature of what's going on in the world. And they will also be intensely prosecuted or intensely investigated. So that's my warning passed on from other people to anyone thinking about leaking any elements of this Mueller report, or even coming up with supposititious details related to the Mueller report. I cannot express to you enough that if you go on television, and if you are a network producer or anchor of a show on national television, and you want to wade into supposititious conjecture about who was not charged and why they were not charged, you will trigger an intense reaction from this Department of Justice. I can't say it again. I'm not going to say it again. Let it be known. We had just looked back and forth, a couple of us, on Twitter. I checked before coming on here. All of you understand my position that Mueller's last low-hanging piece of fruit that he wanted to pluck was always going to be WikiLeaks. It was always going to be Julian Assange. I believe he was very frustrated with the fact that he could not make a connection directly to WikiLeaks of Julian Assange and the other people similar to Roger Stone or Jerome Corsi or anybody in that vicinity. Now, I'm not saying these two things are related, but I am saying that I was alerted JB picked up on something overseas, and it has been confirmed by WikiLeaks within the last hour, and that is there is a marked buildup of uniformed police surrounding the embassy, the Ecuadorian embassy in London. So I'm not here to tell you that there is a linkage between the report being turned over and the increase of officers that could potentially be the ones that get permission from Ecuador to go in and arrest Julian Assange, which I hope is not the case. But you can guarantee one thing. I haven't seen the Mueller report, of course. Nobody has. But if I had to bet, if I were a betting man, having watched everything over the last 2 years, that it was his extended responsibility through the second August issued memo from Rod Rosenstein to somehow link this so-called espionage efforts of WikiLeaks to work with Russia to get involved with our election process. So I would promise you one thing, that there's a recommendation consisted in this report to William Barr that charges be pursued against Julian Assange. Now, Mueller couldn't produce enough evidence to do it himself. My fear is he is using the report as an indictment, and he is going to ask the federal government of the United States to follow up and arrest Julian Assange and hold him accountable for what they think he did, or find other ways to prove it. That's my concern right now. There is tweets out there saying that he may be arrested, that there's a buildup outside. Cannot confirm. All I know is that when I ask officially, after JB gave me a heads up, WikiLeaks is basically responding to people saying within the last hour, there is a marked buildup of uniformed police in London outside the Ecuadorian embassy. I am not a man who believes in coincidences where the report is turned over and this type of thing is occurring. And I'm not also going to fool you into thinking that William Barr is not old school enough to want or desire to see these people that were associated with these WikiLeaks convicted, because he holds them in no higher esteem than Edward Snowden or Bradley Chelsea Manning, whatever it's going by these days. It is seen as a facilitation of classified materials, a very dangerous usurpation of authority by someone in the American government to facilitate that information getting out. Therefore, as I have said all along, as I left as my pinned tweet for 4 months before Twitter took it down, was that the ultimate goal Robert Mueller really had was to politically damage Donald Trump, but in a judicial way, litigious way, I think, was to bring down Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, and somehow get what they perceive to be in the American justice system and intelligence community a win, a crackdown, a conviction. Two separate issues, perhaps, in my mind, unlikely, because these are things that I've been saying now for 2 years. So it's all coming down the way that we expected it. I'm here to just tell you what I've put together myself, and also what these people that have been whispering in my ear for 2 years. I owe them all a debt of gratitude because they've very rarely ever been wrong. And so we continue to put this out in a non-inflammatory way. We are not here to be clickbait jockeys. I will not entitle anything that'll be clickbait. I'm here to tell you what I know as much as I can possibly tell you. If I don't know it, I won't really project onto you what I don't know. But I do know a couple of things. You're going to see reports that are going to confuse, and I've already retweeted one, a consistently bad reporter on Twitter, that the Mueller report, will be sent to Congress potentially by this weekend. It is not the Mueller report. The Mueller report will never leave the room in William Barr's office. It will be viewed as if it were a newly discovered chapter from St. Luke in a cave somewhere by the Galilee. All right, this is a huge paramount security issue, and it will not be dealt with lightly. This is why William Barr accepted the role to come back. This is why he is taking it very seriously. This is my admonishment to all people in the media, and including those on Twitter, not to be irresponsible and not to impugn the credibility or character of people who may or may not be inside the Mueller report, because I can tell you it's probably some of the most, if you're a high profile person, it's probably some of the most dangerous type of conjecture to engage in right now. The entire prefatory comments the other day from Rod Rosenstein was simply regurgitating the same logic of protocol under the DOJ regulations, of which he recommended James Comey be fired, to the president. He was merely reiterating those regulations and protocols that you do not discuss the case of someone who was not formally charged, i.e., do not discuss why Hillary Clinton wasn't charged, because that is improper and it impugns the credibility and character of a person and it violates their civil rights. That is going to be and was put out as a prefatory stance, a cautioning against leaking for anybody on the wide-ranging and admittedly leftist partisan Mueller team. And I'm warning you, all of you who were a part of that Mueller team or are spouses or friends thereof, there may already have been a canary put down the mine shaft. And if you fall prey to giving that one piece of information out, it will trigger something in the Department of Justice that they may already have lined up. You will be convicted. I guarantee you will be indicted immediately. I guarantee, even in a DC jury pool, you will be convicted for leaking that information. And William Barr is the sheriff in town, and he is not Andy Griffith. Do you understand? This isn't Mayberry. He is a serious customer. And he is seriously pissed about how the last 2 years have gone, and he is seriously heartbroken about the current reputation of the federal law enforcement agencies, and he's going to fix it come hell or high water. Let's hope that we don't exacerbate this problem by arresting Julian Assange and attempting extradition. It is going to cause a lot of political problems. And if it's linked directly to the Mueller report, I think it is a very unfair process to potentially get a criminal charge backdoored through somebody who is not an American citizen and was merely on the receiving end, much like Daniel Ellsberg, who is now like a Freedom of Information hero who leaked the Pentagon Papers during the Vietnam War. I don't believe there is a way to backdoor criminal charges because WikiLeaks got involved with being in receipt of what were politically relevant emails and DNC strategies. This is not a crime of which that we should be busting down the door of an Ecuadorian embassy in London and demanding that Theresa May send us an extradited Julian Assange. I promise you, you will have a strange class warfare breakout politically. Not good news for Donald Trump. I will repeat one or two more points that I made in my scope that was so badly disrupted that I couldn't even keep it up anymore. I will I still do have it. I'll put it back up later for posterity, but hopefully it gets cleaned up by Periscope. Here's the deal. Trump will probably not receive the entire report. I'm not sure how they'll deal with that. I'm not sure what they're saying about it right now. And this was, again, a prefatory move by the president saying, release the whole thing, even though he knows William Barr will never do that. And again, this report will contain not only methodologies about how they investigated, pursued crimes, and then let people off or without pursuing charges. It is so sensitive that they cannot release this stuff. So Congress, go ahead and suck that lemon. You're not going to get it. You're going to get an executive report, an executive summary. It'll consist of Mueller's works, but it'll be written by William Barr. William Barr will then, within, I imagine, an expedited time period, he will go before Congress, as I said earlier, and he will testify. And it essentially will be, here's my opening statement, here's my executive summary. Ask me all the questions you want. I'm not going to expound on anything that's not already written in front of you. And it'll be a dog and pony show, and that's just the way it goes. So I appreciate everybody hanging in there with me. I've really got to get down there. Keep an eye on the Julian Assange situation. Keep an eye on what MSNBC, CNN personalities and surrogates say tonight. And also, if I were Sean Hannity, if I were somebody going on the Hannity program or Lou Dobbs, I would be very careful about beating my chest and declaring this a touchdown and spiking the football, because the contents of which is in there, we do not know all of it. We know most of it, but we don't know some of it. So I think that you want to cautiously be optimistic. There's obviously no collusion that is going to be delineated. There's obviously no criminal prosecutions that are going to be attempted to be pursued against the president or his family. And I think that we can take a measure of a success from that. We can take a deep breath and sigh of relief. However, there are pitfalls and traps laid in this report. And artfully, I believe, William Barr will find a way to make sense of this. But I know that people on both sides are going to be pissed off at William Barr. There's going to be people on the president's side who say, F you, I'm your boss, I want that whole report, and we want to respond to it in our own way. And then there's going to be a lot of people on the left saying, F you, we want the whole report because we want to know what's going on with the president's finances, and we want to know everything that Mueller looked into. Going to get hit from both sides, as any good Solomon-like character will do. William Barr will split babies. He will frustrate everybody, but I trust that this is why he accepted the position. I know why Trump selected William Barr. It's because there was no one more experienced or better to pick as an attorney general. It's quite amazing that he accepted this for a second time, and it is quite another thing to question his judgment. This man is an institutionalist. He does value the Department of Justice above all else, and it's going to be his job to repair, reflect, and in some ways bring a wrecking ball to what doesn't work and rebuild it. So I'm a little bit back and forth here because I got too many things going on. So I will probably be on later tonight after I'm home, and we can discuss this more, and perhaps I'll simul stream something for YouTube and Periscope, and maybe have a guest or two to discuss this. Keep an eye on the Julian Assange situation. Please do keep me DMs, shoot me DMs. I will try to check my phone during this whole festivity here as we celebrate my youngest turning 5, and she is adorable and smart, and all the cousins are here, and we're going to have some fun. So again, you guys, your turn. I'm passing it off to you. So I think I said it all. I'll catch you later.